Tonight, after a week of anonymous accusations of sexual harassment against Herman Cain, a new accuser goes public.
I want you, Mr. Cain, to come clean. Just admit what you did.
Jan Crawford on the accusations and Cain's response. In the death of Michael Jackson, the jury finds his doctor,
Conrad Robert Murray, guilty of the crime of involuntary manslaughter.
Ben Tracy, is at the courthouse. In the birthplace of the nation, a panel of distinguished Americans tells us how to fix the country. Your message to Washington is what? And Steve Hartman remembers Andy Rooney.
I'll never forget the first time I walked into this office.
This is the CBS Evening News with Scott Pelley.
Good evening. For a week, the accusations of sexual harassment against Republican presidential frontrunner Herman Cain had come from 3 anonymous women, and there were no specifics. That changed today when a 4th woman came forward and in great detail accused Cain of making sexual advances. Cain's campaign immediately put out a general denial of all the harassment allegations. Political correspondent Jan Crawford begins our coverage.
The woman who came forward today is 50-year-old Sharon Bialik, who told reporters Cain made an aggressive sexual advance.
He suddenly reached over and he put his hand on my leg, under my skirt, and reached for my genitals. He also grabbed my head and brought it towards his crotch. I was very, very surprised and very shocked. I said, "What are you doing?" Mr. Cain said, "You want a job, right?" I asked him to stop, and he did.
Bialik, a single mother from the Chicago area, detailed the allegations in a packed press conference with celebrity lawyer Gloria Allred at her side.
Mr. Cain sat next to me at Marche Restaurant.
Bialik said she met Cain at a National Restaurant Association convention in 1997 when he was president of the group and she worked for its educational foundation in Chicago. The association fired Bialik about a month after the convention, telling her it wasn't happy with her fundraising efforts. She said she then contacted Cain for help in getting another job.
I called Mr. Cain's office and
she told reporters she arranged a trip to Washington to meet with Cain and said her then boyfriend booked her a room at the Capitol Hilton. When she arrived at the hotel, she said she had an enormous suite.
He asked how I liked my room, which is kind of normal, and I said I was very surprised. Mr. Cain kind of smirked and then said, "I upgraded you."
After dinner at an Italian restaurant, Bialik said Cain drove her by the Restaurant Association's offices. She said he groped her after he parked the car.
I asked him to take me back to my hotel, which he did.
CBS News has confirmed 2 other women reached confidential settlements with the Restaurant Association in the 1990s after complaining of harassment by Cain.
I didn't file a complaint against Mr. Cain as some of the other women did because I wasn't employed by the foundation when this occurred.
Now, Cain has repeatedly denied all allegations of harassment. The statement released by his campaign today said, "All allegations of harassment against Mr. Cain are completely false. Mr. Cain has never harassed anyone." And Cain wrote a long response on his website that the media may be obsessed with nonsense, but Scott, he and the voters are not.
Jan, thank you very much. Cain was not seen in public today. He said over the weekend that he would not talk about any of the allegations again. His most forceful defense came in a speech last week.
While at the Restaurant Association, I was accused of sexual harassment. Falsely accused, I might add. I was falsely accused of sexual harassment, and when the charges were brought, as the leader of the organization, I recused myself and allowed my general counsel and my human resource officer to deal with the situation. And it was concluded after a thorough investigation that it had no basis.
In a Gallup poll of Republican voters just released, Kaine remains in a dead heat with Mitt Romney, both at 21%. The poll was taken after the sexual harassment allegations first came to light, but before the new accuser went public today. We got the verdict late this afternoon in the case of the doctor charged in the death of Michael Jackson. Ben Tracy is at the courthouse in Los Angeles.
We, the jury in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Conrad Robert Murray, guilty of the crime of involuntary manslaughter.
Dr. Conrad Murray showed no emotion as the verdict was read this afternoon. Members of Michael Jackson's family have been in the courtroom every day. His sister LaToya gasped as the verdict was read.
Michael was watching over us. He was watching over us. Happy? Yes, very happy.
Outside the courthouse, a crowd of hundreds listening to the verdict cheered as it was announced. Inside, Dr. Murray was handcuffed and led off to the county jail. David Walgren prosecuted the case.
Our sympathies go out to the Jackson family at this time for the loss that they have suffered. Not a pop icon, but a son and a brother.
After a 23-day trial, including 49 witnesses and more than 300 pieces of evidence, the jury agreed with the prosecution's argument that Conrad Murray's actions in giving Michael Jackson the powerful anesthetic propofol in his bedroom were so reckless that it led to the singer's death.
Michael Jackson trusted Conrad Murray. He trusted him with his life. He paid with his life.
The defense had tried to paint Jackson as a drug addict, a man so desperate to sleep he injected himself with the fatal dose of propofol after swallowing other sedatives. Defense attorney Ed Chernoff said Dr. Murray was a victim of Michael Jackson's behavior.
He was just a little fish in a big, dirty pond.
Now, Dr. Murray will be sentenced on November 29th. He faces up to 4 years in prison, but he likely will serve much less than that. And Scott, that's because the prisons here in California are so overcrowded.
Ben, thank you very much. 2 top officials at Penn State University surrendered to police today, accused of covering up the crimes of an alleged child molester who had been on the staff of Penn State's famed football team. Michelle Miller is in State College, Pennsylvania.
Mr. Curley, why didn't you call police?
Penn State Athletic Director Tim Curley and Interim Senior Vice President Gary Schultz are charged with perjury and failing to tell police about the alleged sexual assault of a boy, perhaps as young as 10 years old, by retired football defensive coach Jerry Sandusky. The alleged incident happened on campus in a locker room shower. State Police Commissioner Frank Noonan.
This is not a case about football. It's not a case about universities. It's a case about children who have had their innocence stolen from them.
67-year-old Sandusky has been charged with the sexual assault of 8 boys between 1994 and 2009. All the minors participated in Sandusky's charity for troubled youth. But it was the 2002 shower incident that has called into question the reaction of Penn State officials, including 84-year-old coach Joe Paterno. A graduate student alerted Paterno the day after he witnessed the shower assault. Paterno told a grand jury that he passed that information on to his boss, Tim Curley, who in turn notified school vice president Schultz. State Attorney General Linda Kelly says no attempt was made to identify the victim or call police.
And their inaction likely allowed a child predator to continue to victimize children for many, many years.
A formal investigation of Sandusky began almost 3 years ago when the mother of a teenager called her son's high school to report Sandusky had sexually assaulted him. Penn State tradition is built on integrity, football, and the legend of Coach Paterno. Now boosters and students are coming to grips with a scandal that could stain the reputation of their team and hero coach, whose motto is success with honor.
With all the scandal that's going on in college football and college sports, I thought Penn State was immune to that, but I mean, I guess now we stand here and we're not.
Sandusky is out on bail and he's due back in court on Wednesday. The Pennsylvania Attorney General says that Coach Paterno is facing no criminal charges because he followed the law by quickly telling what he knew to his superiors about the alleged abuse. Scott, what she didn't say was if he had a moral obligation to do more.
Michelle, thank you very much. We got word from the Census Bureau today that about 3 million more Americans have fallen into poverty than first thought. The total number in poverty increased to 49.1 million, when the Bureau recalculated its numbers and included factors such as the cost of health care. In this new analysis, poverty nearly doubled among seniors to 6.2 million. And for the first time, the poverty rate is higher among Hispanics than blacks. A new report says that Iran is getting closer to being able to build a nuclear weapon. Just how close will an asteroid come to the Earth tomorrow? And when Steve met Andy, when the CBS Evening News continues. The UN's nuclear agency is expected to report later this week that Iran is on the threshold of being able to build a nuclear bomb. David Martin has been talking to his sources and has a preview tonight of what the UN investigators have uncovered.
The report from the International Atomic Energy Agency will reveal new evidence Iran is not just enriching uranium, but developing the capability to use it in a weapon. Among other things, a satellite photo of an Iranian military base shows an enormous steel container apparently used to secretly test the high explosives needed to trigger a nuclear weapon.
It's part of this evidence that's accumulating that Iran has continued to work on furthering its ability to make the nuclear weapon itself.
Former UN weapons inspector David Albright has seen much of the evidence.
They know how to make a crude or a nuclear weapon that they could test underground.
Have they mastered the engineering of building a nuclear weapon that they could use against one of their enemies?
Most assessments, and I think the IAEA assessment, at least to the extent that I've seen the assessment, is that no, they have not.
But the IAEA assessment, scheduled to be released later this week, contains evidence Iran has been working on computer models of a warhead small enough to be launched by a missile that could reach Israel and much of Europe.
Some of the evidence suggests that they're within a year of that. Other evidence suggests that they're 4 years away.
Despite diplomatic pressure, economic sanctions, covert sabotage, and the threat of military action, Iran appears to be slowly closing in on a nuclear weapon.
David, thank you very much. We're about to have a close encounter with an asteroid the size of an aircraft carrier. Tomorrow evening, it is expected to pass within 202,000 miles of Earth. That's between the Earth and the orbit of the Moon. No asteroid has come that close in 35 years, but the folks at NASA say they are, quote, 100% confident it won't hit us. That's good news because there are plenty of other serious problems facing us. And to hear some fresh ideas on America's future, we asked some of the smartest folks we could find to join us at Independence Hall in Philadelphia to tell us how they would get America back on track. That's next. And later, Steve Hartman has some thoughts about the passing of Andy Rooney. We're at Independence Hall in Philadelphia, where in 1787 the Founding Fathers gathered during a crisis in this country, and they wrote the Constitution. We've come back here to gather together people from outside Washington, from many walks of life, to ask them what they would do to move the country forward. Joining us at Independence Hall were Mary Frances Berry, constitutional historian, professor at the University of Pennsylvania, and former chairperson of the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights; Mick Cornett, mayor of Oklahoma City and president of the Republican Mayors Association; Michelle Reed, CEO of Students First and former chancellor of the Washington, D.C. Public Schools; Arturo Vargas, the executive director of the National Association of Latino Elected and Appointed Officials; Matthew Siegel, co-founder of OurTime.org, an organization focused on empowering youth; Eileen McDonald, president and CEO of the Penn Mutual Life Insurance Company; and Dr. Joe Greer, assistant dean and professor of medicine at Florida International University; and John Bogle, the founder of the Vanguard Group, the world's largest mutual fund company.
We, the United States of America, are losing our ability to govern ourselves. And if we lose that ability, and we're very close to losing it now, I don't know where we go as a nation, but it's not good.
The job approval rating of Congress is 9%, the lowest we have ever recorded. Why do people not believe in Washington anymore?
I don't think they like the idea that partisanship has taken over Washington, that it seems to matter more if you're an R or a D rather than if you have a good idea. People look for their leadership to lead, and the leadership has gone away.
I think it's not because there's partisanship, but because nothing seems to happen. So if they did something that people thought would help them, there would be less concern about who was an R and a D and whatever. Not only are they partisan, they don't really do anything.
It would also be nice if our politicians, our elected officials, came out with opinions based on facts instead of having an opinion and then looking for facts to back them up. Then I think we'd have a little bit more faith in them.
Here's what I don't understand. Everywhere we go at CBS News, all around the country, we hear the same thing. We hear people saying there has to be compromise, not left, not right, but forward. What is it that's happening in Washington that prevents that kind of progress?
Special interests. It's completely special interests because the politicians and our elected officials today, 95% of the time, the candidate who raises the most money wins re-election. It's a fundraising game. So they know that if they can go to certain industries and always be loyal to that industry, they're always going to win their re-election. And I think that demonstrates they only have to be accountable to the people financing them.
Jack, you've described Wall Street as a casino. You think people are justified in thinking that part of Wall Street is rigged? What do you do about it? You've been in that business your whole life. How do you stop it?
Wiretapping. And finding out.
Wiretapping is a solution to the problems on Wall Street.
Good enforcement is the point I'm really making, much more broadly than that.
Law enforcement.
Law enforcement, absolutely. And we've gotten, we've had much too much crime and not enough punishment. And I think if we get a few more people in jail, the message will go out because these executives do not want to go to jail.
As this interview goes on the air, the super committee working on the deficit will be down to something on the order of 3 weeks before the deadline. Jack, your message to Washington is what?
Get the deal done, period.
Arturo, your message to Washington?
Have some courage. Don't act like it's about the next election. Act like it's about the next generation.
If the American people would send a message to the Congress right now, everybody who's a voter, I want this super committee to come up with a solution, and I want a recommendation out of them, and I will vote that when the next election comes up, then they will do something.
It's the voters' fault?
It's not a question of fault. If the system is having some trouble working, we, in fact, are part of the problem, too.
Michelle.
When I talk to folks on either side of the party line, in terms of policies, they're actually not that far apart. What's driving them further apart is the politics. So I think that our elected officials actually have to come closer to where their constituents are.
Mick, your message to Washington?
Think independently and put the country first.
Think independently, but you're head of the Republican mayor's organization in this country.
And we individually put our cities before our own personal needs.
And you don't believe that's what's happening on Capitol Hill?
Absolutely not. They are fundamentally tied to their political parties. They are tied to specific donors. They are tied to special interest groups. They are not putting the interest of the country first.
Amen.
Amen.
We'll have more ideas from Independence Hall on how to move the country forward tomorrow night. This is a sad time for us here at CBS News with the passing of Andy Rooney. But we found in the newsroom today the best cure for the sadness is to remember how he made us laugh. Tonight, Steve Hartman takes us into Andy's inner sanctum, where all those ideas were hatched.
Did you ever wonder what it would be like to meet Andy Rooney? I'll never forget the first time I did. I'll never forget the first time I walked into this office. It was like walking into your TV set. What I saw in real life was exactly what you saw every Sunday night. That desk, that's his desk. He actually built it. And Andy was definitely Andy.
And I put a secret drawer under here that nobody knows about. Giants tickets.
I remember I pointed out this leather box he had sitting on the floor. Told him I liked it. And his response was so funny. He said, "You know, I like things you can put things in. And I remember thinking to myself, who structures a sentence like that in regular conversation? But that's just the way he talked. That's just how his mind worked.
You've seen these.
It's partly how he was able to take the most mundane topics, like cookies, and make the most fantastic television.
I like ginger snaps with milk, but it's always hard to come out even. You either need one more ginger snap or another swallow of milk.
That unique style, combined with that prickly prose he so eloquently crafted, helped make him the most watched part of the most watched program in TV history.
People say I talk too loud.
His last essay aired just a few weeks ago.
I don't say this often, but thank you. Although, if you do see me in a restaurant, please, just let me eat my dinner.
A curmudgeon till the end. I can only imagine what he would say about this, about obituaries in general. The problem is, you're never around to hear them. That's what he'd say. Finally, as for who will take his spot at 60 Minutes, management at CBS has made it clear they have no plans to replace him with anyone, which just proves what most of us knew all along. There will never be another Andy Rooney.
And that's the CBS Evening News for tonight. For all of us at CBS News all around the world, good night.